What seems to be an old barn door that can be opened by 12 rusty keys, and only one key is quote-unquote safe. It now holds Site 62. This is SCP-004, the 12 rusty keys and old door. Secure, contain, protect. Hi, this is Lola, and this is Lola AnnaBelle. Sit back, relax as I discuss SCP-004 and while I paint and or craft during this time. We will be now discussing SCP-004, the 12 rusty keys and the old door. Please enjoy. The description of SCP-004. Class Euclid. The door is SCP-004-01, and the keys that go with SCP-004 are classified as SCP-004-02 to SCP-004-13. The description of SCP-004 is one old barn door, an entrance to a factory, and 12 rusty keys. The containment procedures are SCP-004-02 to SCP-004-13, vital to keep to procedure, prohibited off-site unless accompanied by 2 Level 4 personnel. No components from behind SCP-004-01 shall be taken, and effects unknown. The cost of experimentation makes testing impractical. In case of objects be taken out of SCP-041 or the breach of SCP-001, the keys must be brought inside prior to Site 62's warhead being detonated. An unauthorized removal of keys will be terminated. The timeline: July 2nd, 1949. 3 juveniles trespassed on federal property near information redacted. Found door. Their testimony: according to the group, they found a set of keys and an iron lockbox determined what door they belonged to. The juveniles are taken into custody after they contact the sheriff when a friend goes missing. This will be known as SCP-004 case CAS-01. July 3rd, 1949. SCP-004 CAS-01. Severed hand was found 8 kilometers from factory, and the other parts found as far as 32 kilometers from factory. When the juveniles were asked when SCP-001 was opened with one of the keys, SCP-004 CAS-01 was immediately torn apart and all disappeared. SCP takes over investigation. July 4th, 1949. SCP agent information redacted contains keys from local authorities and testing begins. SCP-00402 through SCP-00413 show that all fit into the door. 12 Class D personnel are assigned to test the door. From my understanding, Class D are like criminals and the subject matter that like low lives, not actually working for the Foundation. So human test subjects. Okay. Out of the 12 test subjects, only 2 survive. SCP-00407 and SCP-004-12 were the only 2 keys that did not cause the subject to be torn apart in multiple directions. Parts of the 10 subjects were found later, and with 2 parts each. The rest of them vanished from existence, and the subject used SCP-004 information redacted. Parts were scattered close to the door. The survivors. Subject used SCP-004-07 came unarmed. The other came back in a catatonic state, removed himself from the room, and collapsed. Was restrained to prevent from gouging eyes out. Referred to Appendix A for mental health effect of SCP-004. We will go over that later. The subject that used SCP-004-07 entered a large room and possibly big. At his exit, he propped SCP-004-07 and a squad of Level 3 personnel entered. Size impossible to measure. Door, frame, and individuals and room can only be felt or illuminated. July 16th, 1949. The juveniles and the sheriff are terminated. It says terminated. I wonder if they're taking off the case or whatever. I don't know. August 2nd, 1949. Information redacted. Declared a hazardous area due to unexploded ordnance. Fences built to prevent civilian ingress. Tests began on SCP-004-01 for safety of environment. December 1st, 1950. Space-time anomalies resulting exposing of SCP-004. Testing suspended. July 2nd, sometime in the 1900s, so after 1950, remains of SCP-CAS-01 appear outside of SCP-004-01 and not decomposed, still warm. Blood uncoagulated. Remains go for testing. A couple days later, July 4th, the remains of one of the 12 tough subjects appear similar to SCP-004-CAS-01, designated to SCP-004-02. Records suggest that SCP-004-CAS SCP-001 and SCP-00CAS-02 used SCP-004 redacted. March 21st, 1999. Massive proliferation of nuclear weapons and World War III only redacted years away. Construction has begun inside of SCP-004-01. The site stock supplies redacted person days. April 21st, 1999. Information redacted. Ordered site inside SCP-004-01 to include emergency storage for mobile SCP redacted specimens and redacted redacted pedal database for all SCP data is designated to Site 62. September 25th, 2000. Site 62 is operational. Labs and containment units complete. Can contain the most dangerous specimens. Back up to the SCP database has begun. January 25th, 2001. Due to time anomalies, all personnel working at Site 62 are required to reside on site. Families are informed that their loved ones are perished in an industrial accident. Clone bodies have been prepared for funerals. August 14th, 2003. Massive power outage across the northeast U.S. through Canada. The initial SP generation Site 62 was without power for 53 minutes. During that time, without any light, reports of sensing people and creatures but not seen or felt. Select personnel redacted. Appendix A. The creatures sensed were similar to green creatures described, but human size. Space-time anomalies. SCP-004 prograde space-time anomalies. Personnel leaving report losing time, been there for weeks, but report there being for several days. The records corroborate this. Other anomalies involve SCP-004-02 through SCP-004-13, especially SCP-004-CAS-01 and SCP-004 and CAS-02, exactly redacted years after using SCP-004 redacted. Redacted has been assigned to investigate. Spatial anomalies and possibly large submissions when opened by SCP-047. 2003 blackouts suggest an alternate plane of existence on the same space of Site 62. Appendix A. Health effects of SCP-004-12. Class C personnel using SCP-004-12 returned to catatonic state and unable to speak. Some called their eyes out. 4 survivors of 16 subjects. 1 regained speech with intent of long-term psychotherapy. Told psychiatrists that he saw a massive green creature so large it stretched the field of view. Innate fear and sudden recognition, as if there was something buried deep in his primal fears. Incomprehensible memories. Subjects display acute degenerate and retrograde amnesia. Appendix B, item number SCP-0014. Date, September 2nd, 1950. Origin found in factory area in an undiscovered manager's office. Description: appears large, unvarnished wooden box, unlocked by SCP-007 and 5 of the unsafe keys. Using SCP-0047 on SCP-00414. The volume inside the box is 5 times large inside. Objects placed in lid when open do not affect weight, but object in box when closed vanish. Personnel locked in box disappear. Significantly affect dreams experienced by the data has been expunged. That'll be it. Thank you. That'll be it for today's episode. I am Lola, and this is Lola AnnaBelle. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would like to hear your thoughts on this episode. Please comment down below, and if you enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing. And I will see you next time with the next SCP episode or other content. Until next time, I am Lola AnnaBelle. Stay safe, be strong, I love you.